In a fog that swallowed all light, a radio voice with an accent from nowhere spoke words that would haunt Charles Reed for the rest of his life. Tugboat duty, motor vessel, Peregrine, requesting pilotage to Pier 7. Over.
Peregrine, I don't have you on my board. State your last port.
The reply came through crackling. Port of Registry Great Lakes. Cargo iron ore. Destination Pier 7.
That accent. Not from any port I've known. Dispatch, Reed. I've got an unscheduled vessel requesting Pier 7. Name is Peregrine.
Charles, I am showing nothing. No entry for Peregrine tonight. Could be a glitch, but be careful.
Nothing on the schedule. A ship that shouldn't be there. But in this fog, without a pilot, I'll escort them in. Without a pilot in this soup, they'll run aground.
The tug vanished into the fog, toward a ship that should not exist, and a signal that had no source in the living world. Charles steered into the channel, fog so dense he navigated by radar alone. A massive shape took form on the screen, a target that dwarfed his own Echo. The freighter emerged inch by inch, hull streaked with rust, paint faded to corpse gray.
I can't read the name. It's worn clean off.
The wing bridge was empty. No watchstander, no running lights, just dark glass reflecting fog.
Where is her crew? Not a face, not a voice.
The radio voice came again. Accent impossible to place. Tug, come alongside to starboard.
Copy. Peregrine, approaching starboard side.
On the freighter's side, a massive anchor hung, rusted and weeping dark water, as if submerged for decades. The fog closed around them, and Charles saw only the outline, a phantom skyscraper of steel, and listened for sounds that never came. Charles nudged the tug alongside the freighter, hawsers tensioned, and began coaxing the dead giant through the narrows.
Peregrine, reduced to dead slow. I'll bring you around the shoal.
From the tug, Charles scanned the freighter's deck. No deckhands at the rails, no officer at the bridge wing.
Not a single crewman. It's like she's sailing herself into port.
They ghosted past the breakwater, and Charles warped the freighter against Pier 7 with practiced precision. The lines went out, and the great hulk settled against the pier without so much as a groan of metal.
Dispatch, Reed. Peregrine is secured at Pier 7.
Copy, Charles. Still no entry in the system. Everything goes smoothly?
Smooth as a wake in oil. Too smooth.
The freighter lay dead quiet. No watch light. No steam from her stack, as if the ship herself were holding her breath.
Charles, I checked every log. There's no Peregrine. Pier 7 shows no arrivals, no lines, nothing.
I tied her up myself at 3 in the morning. She can't have just steamed out.
Dawn broke gray and silent. Pier 7 stretched out empty, the water flat as sheet metal.
600 feet of steel, and not a trace.
He walked the pier slowly, checking every cleat. No fresh paint scars, no rope fibers. The cast iron cleats were coated in undisturbed dew, rust untouched for months.
Not a footprint, not a scratch. It's like she was never here.
He looked back toward the city skyline, still half hidden in mist, and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold.
I have the tape. I have my log. But they'll say I imagined it.
The fog thinned, and Charles stood alone on the empty planks, the mystery of the night now a stone in his chest. Charles thrust open the dispatch door. The room smelled of stale coffee and silence.
Play this tape. Tell me what you hear, and then tell me I am wrong.
It's garbled. Could be a prank, a skip in the recording. No vessel by that name was anywhere near here.
I spoke to that captain. I put hawsers on his ship. That is not a prank.
Charles called Harbor Patrol. The answer came back flat. No contact, no radar return at Pier 7 all night.
Every silence turns me into a liar. But I know what I did.
Linda's hand brushed across the logbook page, the blank entry under Peregrine, as final as a tombstone.
I am going to the Port Authority. Someone there will listen.
The pickup crunched to a halt in front of the Port Authority building, fog still clinging to the morning. Charles stepped out. The cassette held tight and walked toward the steel doors that would open onto a wall of denial. Harwood's office smelled of paper dust and final decisions that were never quite written down.
I have a recording of a freighter that docked at Pier 7 and then vanished.
Harwood fed the cassette into the recorder and settled headphones over his ears without a word.
You're certain it was Pier 7, not Pier 6 or the old wharf?
I lit the sign with my spotlight. Pier 7. I tied the lines myself.
Fog can trick a man. We've had pilots confuse piers before. Maybe you saw what you expected to see.
30 winters on this water, officer. I know every rotten piling by name. That was Pier 7.
No ship named Peregrine has been near this port in decades, if ever. I suggest you drop this.
I won't drop it. Something happened, and someone is covering it up.
Harwood slid the cassette back, as if it were contaminated. Charles took it, and the door clicked shut on a silence colder than the fog. Charles sat in his truck, staring at the fog that wouldn't lift. He searched every database. No vessel named Peregrine in any current registry.
Maybe that's why they think I am crazy. The ship doesn't even exist on paper now.
He replayed the recording, chasing the accent through the static.
That voice, not from anywhere I've sailed, sounds like a newsreel from another century.
He remembered the empty wing bridge, the silence of the mooring. Doubt gnawed.
What if I imagined it? Men lose their grip out on the water. What if I am one of them?
But the image of the anchor, weeping rust, pulled him back. He knew what he'd touched.
I am not wrong, but no one will listen unless I find proof they can't ignore.
He set the cassette beside the coffee and began scrawling timelines, alone in the kitchen light. Charles lifted the phone and dialed the number of a retired deckhand who knew more about old ships than any living man.
I've got something I need you to hear. A radio call from a freighter last week.
He held the speaker to the tape, and the voice of the unseen captain filled the kitchen.
Did you hear that accent? I can't place it. It's not from any lake port, I know.
The old friend was silent for a heartbeat, then said the accent belonged in a newsreel, not a modern bridge.
You think it's from another time? I've been thinking the same thing.
He asked Charles to play it again, and then promised to search through the old ship registries at the Maritime Library.
Call me the second you find anything, even a scrap. He believed me. Or at least he didn't hang up. That's more than anyone else.
Charles set the phone down. The notepad beside his coffee now held a name and a year he couldn't yet see, but felt approaching. The call came at dusk. The deckhand's voice dry as paper. He had found something. He read aloud, SS Peregrine, Lake Superior, lost with all hands, the 17th of November 1958. No trace, no distress call.
Lost with all hands. No distress call, but I heard him. He called me.
The fax machine whirred, spitting out a copy of the 1958 front page. The photograph was low contrast, but unmistakable. The same freighter down to the rust pattern along the bow.
That's her. The missing paint. The anchor hanging too low. It's her.
Charles laid the fax beside his own logbook sketch, the lines aligning with sickening precision. The article included a small map, a circle where the ship was last seen, far out on Superior.
40 years to the month. She came back, and I put her into port.
The kitchen table now held the fax, the sketch, and the impossible. Charles stared at them until the lamp burned low. Charles remembered the newspaper mentioned a cargo manifest. He couldn't let that thread go unpulled. He drove to the Maritime Archives, a granite building stacked with a century of ship logs. In a folder labeled 1958, he pulled out the original Peregrine manifest, brittle and musty. Port of registry. Great Lakes, cargo, iron ore, destination, Pier 7.
Pier 7 wasn't built until 1972. I helped tie up the first freighter there as a young mate.
A quick search on the library terminal confirmed it. Pier 7 construction wouldn't begin for another dozen years after 1958.
Dr. Voss, I've got an impossibility on my hands. A recording from a ship that sank in 1958, bound for a pier that didn't exist.
Send me everything you have. I've studied phantom ships for 20 years, but this, I'll look at it immediately.
Charles sealed photocopies of the manifest, the newspaper, and his logbook into an envelope. The weight heavier than paper should be.
Mr. Reed, the manifest paper dates to 1958. Pier 7 didn't exist. You've handed me a genuine time anomaly.
Charles gripped the phone, the word anomaly still ringing in his ear. Dr. Voss set the manifest under a magnifying lens, the yellowed paper whispering of another era. The fiber content, the typeface wear, the ink oxidation, every test placed it in November 1958. She read the destination line again, Pier 7, a pier that wouldn't exist for 14 more years.
I sent your tape to a linguist. He matched the accent to an archived interview with Captain Augustin of the Peregrine.
A sepia photograph of the captain stared out from 1958, his voice now sealed on Charles's cassette.
I am not crazy. The proof is on paper, on tape.
You piloted a ghost through the fog, Mr. Reed. I can't explain it, but it happened.
Relief and a deeper dread settled over him. The mystery now had a name, but no answer.
I'll draft a report. It may take years, but this must be on the record. I found the planning documents. Pier 7 was proposed in 1957, but construction was delayed until 1970.
She flipped through brittle council minutes, the typewriter font from 1957 unmistakable.
The ribbon marks on the 1958 manifest match the 1957 proposal exactly. The same typewriter, same operator.
So the Peregrine's manifest was written before the pier was even built.
It appears the shipping company used a preliminary schedule that assumed Pier 7 would be ready by 1958.
But it wasn't. The ship was trying to dock at a pier that existed only on paper.
Charles unfolded the old nautical chart, the dotted line of the 1957 proposal curving to a berth that wouldn't exist for 14 years.
This isn't just a ghost ship. It's a ship out of time, following a route that was never real.
The implications settled like ice. The Peregrine hadn't just returned from the dead. It had been chasing a future that never arrived.
Why would it come back now? And why to me?
Charles drove to the port offices, seeking an old harbor master who had known the fog for 60 years. He found him in a corner of the break room, a cup of black coffee trembling in a weathered hand. The old man's eyes sharpened at the name Peregrine. He set down the cup and began to recall. He spoke of radar pings from ghost ships, radio voices and dead accents, the cold feeling of something massive passing unseen.
It wasn't just me. This port has been a crossroads for the lost for decades.
Charles drove home in a daze, the weight of a buried history pressing on him.
If I go public, I admit the whole port is cursed with something no one can explain, but I can't bury the truth. Those men deserve to be remembered, even in a footnote.
That night, he looked out at the fog and vowed to speak, no matter the cost. The Peregrine had surfaced for a reason, and he would be its voice. Dr. Voss called with a proposal that would turn the Peregrine case into more than a private haunting.
I've written a paper. It's strictly documentary. The manifest, the audio match, the pier anomaly. No supernatural theories.
Documentary. Just the facts. But the facts are impossible.
I need your permission to include the audio excerpt. Your name as the pilot. This will be public.
Charles stared at the cassette player on the table, the record of a dead man's voice.
If I let them publish, I mark myself. But if I don't, the Peregrine and its crew vanish again. Put my name on it. The whole truth, no trimming. Those men deserve a record.
When the release form arrived, he signed it with a steady hand, his name now tethered to the impossible.
The journal has accepted the submission for peer review. Your tape is now part of the permanent archive.
Charles hung the phone and touched the frame of his own tugboat photo, feeling the weight shift from his shoulders to history. On the dock, a deckhand grinned and called across the wind, "Look sharp, here comes Captain Ghost."
The rumor mill got hold of it. Now I am a ghost-chasing fool to every man on the pier.
The morning paper ran a column under Out on the Water, a one-paragraph joke about a phantom freighter, and its imaginary pilot.
They didn't even use my name, but everyone knows.
That evening, Charles sat alone in the dim living room, the cassette player silent on the table before him.
I could erase it. One pass of the magnet, and this all goes away. But then he's really gone. Captain Augustin, the crew, all of them, no one would ever know they came home.
His thumb pressed lightly on the erase button, the tape deck humming warm. He held that position, breathing shallowly, as the weight of the truth and the weight of ridicule balanced on a single finger. Then he pulled his hand back. The cassette remained whole, the voice of the dead still sealed within. The call from Harwood came without explanation, summoning Charles to the same sterile office.
I've been hearing things, Reed. Your name keeps surfacing in places it shouldn't. You are stirring up old stories this port prefers to forget. The Peregrine isn't the first, and you don't want to know about the others.
If there have been others, then I am not wrong. Why won't anyone talk about it?
Because some doors never shut. I've seen men lose everything chasing things that can't be explained.
Did you ever see one yourself? A ship that shouldn't exist?
Harwood turned to the window, his reflection unreadable. He wouldn't say more. Charles stood, recognizing the silence as the only answer he would get. Outside, he looked back at the building and felt not fear, but a hardening resolve. The fog was rolling in again, blanketing the water, and somewhere in it he sensed the Peregrine waiting to be remembered. Charles returned to the Maritime Archives and loaded a microfiche reel labeled Coast Guard 1958, November. The screen lit with a faded log, distress signal received from SS Peregrine. No further transmissions. The transcript began. Mayday, motor vessel Peregrine, position unknown. All hands. The same accent, the same cadence as his tape.
That's the same man. Every pause, every syllable. My tape caught his last words.
He collected the final document, Port Engineering Blueprints, stamped November 1972 for Pier 7. He photocopied everything, sealed the evidence in a manila envelope, and dialed Dr. Voss's number.
I am mailing the distress call transcript and the pier blueprints. The paper will be unassailable.
I'll add these to the appendix immediately. With the manifest and audio match, it's airtight.
Charles dropped the envelope at the post office, the final thread that tied him to history. That night, the fog pressed against his window, but he saw it not as menace, as a vast, patient witness. The months gnawed at his livelihood. His shift schedule thinned to a handful of daylight runs.
They're cutting me out. Operational adjustment, they said. I've become a distraction.
His supervisor's voice came crisp. The port preferred not to field questions about phantom vessels.
Soon I'll be a ghost myself, still breathing, but invisible on every dock.
Night after night he sat, the phone a black mute creature on the table, the cassette still beside it.
Once that paper comes out, they'll have to look. Even if they mock, the truth will be in print.
The call came at last, a sharp ring in a silent house.
Mr. Reed, the issue goes to press next Thursday. Your name is in the byline.
He set the receiver down and sat without moving, the weight of years shifting all at once. Outside, the fog still hung, but it no longer felt like a shroud. It felt like the beginning of an answer. The journal arrived that Thursday, wrapped in plain brown paper. Charles unfolded it to the table of contents. The title read, "The Ghost Freighter of Pier 7," below, in smaller type, "Tug Captain's Encounter with a Phantom from 1958.
There it is. My name in ink. 40 years of silence, and now the world will know. The vessel's manifest specified Pier 7, a pier that would not be built for another 14 years.
The article included the 1958 photograph, the Peregrine rusted and worn, exactly as she had appeared in the fog. Beside it, the portrait of Captain Augustin stared out, now a permanent piece of the historical record.
They made it home, not in the flesh, but in ink. That counts.
He set the journal down and picked up the framed photo of his own tug, holding the two eras side by side. He opened the desk drawer where he kept his logbooks and the original cassette. He placed the journal inside, alongside the photograph of Captain Augustin and the evidence that had bound him to a ghost. On the docks, a former crewmate stopped him and put out a hand.
I read the article. Charles, I am sorry I laughed at you. You did a good thing.
Harwood passed him in the hall, eyes fixed ahead, as if Charles were already fog. A shipping magazine called for a short interview. Charles answered their questions quietly, letting the facts speak. That night, he sat alone in the dark and fed the old cassette into the player. The reels turned, and the static parted, releasing the accent that had no place in the living world. Tugboat duty, motor vessel, Peregrine requesting pilotage to Pier 7, over.
I've heard that voice 1,000 times. It never warms.
He let the tape play out, then switched off the machine. The echo of the dead captain hung in the silence. Through the window, fog still drifted over the harbor, patient and eternal, carrying the voices that never truly left. In the deep November night, Charles cast off his tug alone, steering toward Pier 7 one last time. He killed the engines a quarter-mile out and let the silence press in.
If she's out there tonight, I'll feel her. No radar, just instinct.
He scanned the black water, half expecting the great rusted outline, but there was nothing, no radar blip, no static-laced voice.
Just the fog and the water and the names of 40 men. Wherever you are, safe passage.
He waited until the cold seeped through his coat, then throttled home. By dawn, the fog was thinning and the water gleamed like polished pewter. He tied up at his regular slip and sat in the wheelhouse as the sun broke through. Some doors, he understood, never shut all the way, and some voices never stopped calling. Years slipped by. Charles retired to a small house on the water, where the fog visited every November like a familiar ghost. He kept the evidence in a simple wooden desk, the journal, the cassette, a black and white photograph. On quiet evenings, he would open the drawer and rest his hand on the spine of the journal. The title was still there, The Ghost Freighter of Pier 7. Then he would take out the cassette, the brittle plastic holding a voice from 1958. And for a fleeting moment, he would hear it again, that accent from nowhere. Peregrine, out, he would place the cassette back beside the photograph of Captain Augustin, the man he never met but knew intimately. Then he would close the drawer, the old wood sliding shut with a soft thud. He would look out the window and see the fog rolling over the harbor, patient as time, and he would understand that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only witnessed.